You can see them on the video, and our remote participants. At least I don't need to ask remote participants to switch off their mobile, which I will ask people here in the room. For those of you remotely who are new to our briefings, my name is Jovan Kurbalija. I'm director of DiploFoundation and head of the Geneva Internet Platform. You can see the logo of the Geneva Internet Platform behind me. The place Geneva Internet Platform is a place where, as it is indicated, digital actors are engaged in policy process. Digital governance is fostered, and digital policy is monitored. In brief, it is a place where we've been trying to bring together various actors, mainly centered in Geneva, in order to discuss internet governance issues in non-official settings. We have capacity building programs. We just finished the training. There are also research and other activities. One of the features is also providing actors with in a very consolidated view, what's going on in internet governance. I can see some of you spend days, if not nights, last few weeks discussing internet governance in the VERSIS, in the Commission on Science and Technology. But the purpose of this briefing is to have one zoom-out view of what's going on. Because sometimes we dig into the wrong process and we focus on specific process and we don't see the broader picture. Every first Tuesday of the month, between 1 and 2, we'll have discussion on what's happened during the previous month and what are likely to be the developments ahead of us. Today we will focus on developments in the 10 major developments during the previous month, May, and what we have ahead of us in June. We'll also try to identify trends, things which may not be noticeable in typical media coverage of these events. The ground rule is that you can interrupt me, make your comments. As I indicated, some of you are really, really deeply involved in the internet governance process, and I'm sure that you have, the nuances and the subtle details of the process. But keep in mind that we'll try to have a zoom-out view with here and there focusing on specificities. This is what Vlad, a colleague of mine who is usually running our webinars, wrote. Warm spring announces hot summer. And I'm sorry, hot autumn. We'll have some break during the summer. And it's probably a good tweet to describe the current internet governance discussion. We had a lot of dynamics in spring with the NETmundial and May discussions in CSTD versus preparations. We'll probably have, hopefully, some lull during the summer, and then immediately after the summer, there will be Internet Governance Forum in Istanbul. Later on, our conference on Internet Governance. Later on, ITU plenipot meeting, ICANS meeting. Therefore, it will be quite dynamic. Now, as you know, we've been trying to map the position of different actors every month at the beginning of for that particular month. We will come back to this repositioning, and I will explain you what does it mean practically. What repositioning we noticed among different actors. Let us see what were the 10 major developments. You will see the list, and we will go step by step with the quick summaries, factual summaries, what happened, and here and there a few comments. And I'm sure that there will be many questions triggered by this summary. First major development was the decision of the ICANS new GTLD program committee. I'm sure you are familiar now with the acronyms and you develop a resistance for the heavy IG acronyms. This is a part of the ICANS system, which is basically giving advices for the new GTLDs. Quite important before the board decides on the vetting of the process. Government Advisory Committee, on the request of Brazil and Peru, on behalf of the Amazon basin countries, submitted objection to the registration on .amazon by company Amazon. Now it's interesting, legally interesting issue because Amazon, company Amazon, has a trademark. And I would say that legally speaking, it has quite a strong ground. We'll see now if there are legal considerations one can guess that Amazon company, Amazon has a stronger case in the situation, but we'll see if there will be other considerations political in deciding on the .Amazon. It just shows how controversial the question of new domain names will be. With the famous Vine controversy, where the European Union objected, and there is the recent letter by Larry Strickland from the NTIA to the ICANN, basically presenting slightly different view on the question of the objection of the European Union on the new domain .Vine. Second major development was net neutrality. UN Federal Communication Commission proposed the rules about the future of open internet. Now the debate, if you are one of the mailing list you can receive, and Richard Hill is on a few of them, you can receive, well, 10 to 15, Richard, mails on net neutrality, and then we can really dig into this issue, which is a highly important issue. But I try to summarize with 2 lines. It first opened door for a pay-for-preference deal, therefore, in a way, undermining the concept of net neutrality in its core value. And there is more and more discussion for reclassifying broadband as public utility, which can have far-reaching consequences. Public utility has a special regulatory setup, and that question of the internet free from regulation could be challenged to this backdoor. Right to be forgotten is a ruling of the European Court of Justice on Google Spain, and Google.com. As you may recall, there was a court case triggered by a Spanish lawyer who didn't like the fact that on the search engines, Google search engines, there was some information which from his private history of something about his house and the mortgage, whatever, he didn't want to show. Then he started the court case, and in a rather surprising development, European Court of Justice decided to request from Google Spain, Google.com also as the mother company, to remove that information about that particular person from Google search. Now, it triggered a really heated debate. I won't go into the legal consideration about European Court of Justice even and the European human rights system, which is very interesting. Status of Google is it provider information, controller of access, data holder, but I can point you to a few links if you're interested. Mainly the negative reaction came from internet industry, as there is a risk of censorship, backdoor the censorship, and there are quite a few philosophical issues that this case is opening. Therefore, there will be a lot of debate. There's also a question of jurisdiction in governance, because the ruling of the court is clear that it doesn't apply only to Google Spain, but also to Google.com. And I was a bit surprised, if you're involved in the discussion, that everybody forgets its famous Yahoo case, which is 10 years old, when basically the French court ruled against, based on the fact that Yahoo.com in the United States shouldn't allow access to Nazi materials at that time to French citizens. That was, and nobody has raised this issue of jurisdiction in discussion on this ruling. Third development, cyber espionage, always exciting. In the headlines, U.S. indictment against 5 Chinese military officials. The Chinese response, basically quoting a question of surveillance as on the moral ground, and China suspended the China-U.S. cyber working group as some sort of cyber security fact-2 process of contacts between Chinese and U.S. military and security officials. That was a signal that China wasn't particularly pleased with this move. Now, what has been completely ignored is one new development. For the first time, there is indictment against state officials, which, according to international law, could be the basis for the state responsibility. Therefore, this is one thing that I think through this door, back door, or through this process, we can expect the emergence of the first cyber case in front of International Court of Justice. It may not be China and the United States, it may be somebody else, but it was interesting aspect, and I think it to some extent triggered very unexpectedly strong reaction by China because of that element of the potential state state responsibility for these acts. Please, Peter. No, Attorney General of the United States put them on these posters wanted all over the United States. Therefore, you have now Chinese officials with 5 photos did the request for the harassment. Therefore, this is official internal. That's interesting aspect about the public. There was element of timing and probably signaling. Then we can discuss that. But this is official juridical process initiated in front of the U.S. court by Attorney General. That's basically factually what it is all about. Obviously, the Chinese officials are in China, and it's not very likely that they will be arrested and prosecuted in the United States. But legally speaking, it's opening quite a few issues, especially on the question of responsibility of states and acts of their officials. Next was ICANN high-level panel on internet governance, which adopted final report and recommendations after their Dubai meeting, and they reinforced NETmundial principles. And you can see that dynamics. Now I'm zooming out on trends. Basically, a lot of discussion is on the legacy of NETmundial. Was it mother of all meetings or conferences, or was it a questionable exercise in multi-stakeholder diplomacy? As you can see, most of you attended the Versus and the CFTD meeting. That discussion has been going on. Now, the high-level panel reinforced strongly NETmundial principle and asked for the follow-up for development of the new methods, new tools based on both NETmundial conclusions and NETmundial experience. One of the proposals is for creating collaborative and decentralized internet governance ecosystem. The key issue, I would say, since ICANN issue is on the track of being there, is how to deal with so-called orphan issues which do not have the place where to be addressed. Should it be some sort of a net router or a clearing house, or what we sometimes suggested, metaphorically IG restaurant, or should it be, as there are some arguments, new international organization on the internet? Therefore, there are various issues how these orphan issues should be proposed, how they should be addressed. Next development, and I'm sure that I didn't have to spend a lot of time, was the UN Commission on Science and Technology Development Working Group on Enhanced Cooperation. Richard, please.
Yeah, no, there are challenges. The NETmundial actually was not.
You mean on ICANN or?
No,
okay.
And it's correct that that there was no responsibility, but that was not the major source of the breakdown was there were not because the one side said, yeah, I have probably working and more of it. The other side said, no, there has never been any cooperation. That comes because the fundamental of cooperation according to one side was to use the role of the UN government. According to the other side was no, enforcing the mechanism. So I think the key thing is on whether or not it's not cooperation has been.
Let me just comment what Richard Hill just highlighted, that the key question was if the enhanced cooperation has taken place. It basically the two main positions. One is revisiting or reviewing the role of U.S. government, and the other position which basically arguing that enhanced cooperation has taken place to different fora. Don, please. Don just asked the question about the U.S. government and the position of U.S. government in this new consideration. And I would, I think it is an excellent example of interplay of domestic national considerations, discussion in the Congress, which is becoming very heated, and international one. I think the U.S., what I'm seeing that U.S. diplomacy has been trying to keep the international side of the debate a relatively low profile, while having to address the questions in the U.S. Congress, mainly about the future of supervision of ICANN and IAM function. That was sort of my reading of the situation. Of course, U.S. has, but the position of the U.S. government is that current multi-stakeholder process should be supported, that there are no major needs to change anything in this process. That was the main view. I'll get back to the comment by Richard Hill on NETmundial legacy. It was, I think, that was one interesting aspect. When the meeting started, I went to the list of participants. As you know, in diplomacy, the level of representation is the first signal about the involvement in the meeting. And I noticed that usually big and highly professional Brazilian delegations this time consisted of one person. And it's not typical. All of you who have been attending the Internet Governance meetings know that probably one of the most competent and quite numerous delegations have been Brazilian delegations. And that could have been political signal or coincidence. I'm just leaving for the speculation. But what's happened later on in discussion, NETmundial got a relatively low profile, and it became part of the mainly chairman's summary. It didn't go into the resolution, and there was the question: should we congratulate or whatever, which went into that. Therefore, that was one element of discussion of, let's say, NETmundial legacy, which was completely different comparing to the ICANN report, which basically indicated that that was one of the major meetings. Richard, please. Now we for the ECOSOC and the UN General Assembly, but I won't waste any of your time, especially of people in the room. People in the room, just for the remote participants, are people who are involved to the large extent in the negotiation in the CSTD working group and versus +10. Now, there was a meeting of the Internet Governance Forum Multi-Stakeholder Advisory Group in Paris on between 19th and 21st of May. One of the issues was how to make tangible outputs of the IGO. Should we have a resolution, a chairman's summary, good practices? And obviously, discussion was triggered by the first output multi-stakeholder meeting, NETmundial. And the question is, if NETmundial could have produced the outcome, why the Internet Governance Forum cannot do the same? That will be really, really open issue for coming period. They did the regular housekeeping with the preparation, the vetting of the workshops for the IGF in Istanbul. I think that for those of you who were in Paris, could it summarize in 2 tweets the main dynamics of the meeting. Now, next event, which kept some of our colleagues, I would say, last Saturday till 1 o'clock in the morning, was the preparation for the Versus +10 high-level event. Just quick zoom out before I move to that. One line in the follow-up to the Versus World Summit on Information Society 2015 was this CSTD line, and it was discussed in the working group on enhanced cooperation and CSTD meeting. The other line is this action line, I would say, the programmatic follow-up, which has been coordinated by a few UN agencies with ITU as the primus inter pares in this process. They had to produce a document, 2 documents, one which will, in a way, deal with the history, and the other one which should provide the vision. And there were 5 preparatory meetings and quite heated debate. And I'm sure that Richard will bring some points. I'm trying to keep zoom out you, but please, Richard.
Yeah, so in the vision, the action items, which are not fully agreed, but there are actually 2 action items that pose problems, surprise, insecurity, and the
Thank you, Richard. Just what is the summary? Therefore, the statement on the implementation on business outcome is in a way closed, ready for the high-level panel, high-level event to adopt it in 1 week time, next week. And then the second part was controversial about the vision, and there were two open issues. One is security, and the other one is about media, and again, centering around the questions like freedom of expression and the freedom of media. It is still open. That part is left open. This action line part, and there is a proposal that it should be discussed and addressed by high level event, or it's completely closed. I'm here hearing some nodding. Vera, please. Great. Yeah. Therefore, you, just a summary here. There are two documents. One is agreed. The second document, first half is agreed. Second half is not agreed. Action lines. And now we have here I heard controversial interpretation. One is that it will go, this non-agreed part will go to the high-level event as just chairman's summary, together with chairman's, but not to be discussed and negotiated, or to be discussed and negotiated. Only for we have different view. Now there are different views, but I also heard a different view from the few colleagues from ITU. Please. Mm-hmm. We just heard here for our remote participants, therefore, the second part, vision document, first half is agreed, and now we have two interpretations. One interpretation by Richard and Vera that it is just for information, it will be submitted for the high-level panel. I heard the same interpretation as Patrick indicated, that it will be submitted as information with possibility to be reopened for negotiation. As you know, in diplomacy, it is rare that you have the negotiations in the last phase, but there is this possibility, and we will see what will happen during our July briefing. Now, the another development involves Stockholm Internet Forum. As you know, focus on freedoms on the internet. There was a big issue, is surveillance and internet governance issue, and a bit of a small scandal when WikiLeaks people were not allowed to join the Stockholm Internet Forum, which a bit contradicts the spirit of the forum, which is always highlighting openness, inclusion. And they created quite a strong campaign, I would say, tarnishing the image of the Stockholm Internet Forum on this issue of the openness. That was a strong focus on NETmundial follow-up.
Sorry. And so the second question is internet issues even forum.
Yes. Okay, we have just for online participants just a comment from Richard Hill indicating that even in the Stockholm Internet Forum accepted that internet governance, that surveillance is internet governance issue because of privacy, and it was in a way, as Richard indicated, defeat for Carl built on his home Now, we went through these major developments, and here is the current situation. What is the major? There are two major changes, I would say, comparing to our previous chart. One is a shift during the month of May of Brazil from being trying to make some sort of a compromise deal in Sao Paulo and moving in zone of possible agreement, moving, as you can see, a bit out in May, closer with a not very enthusiastic follow-up in CSTD on the NETmundial, moving a bit out and moving to wait and see position on internet governance. It was an interesting move from China, which had a very, very low profile in Sao Paulo at NETmundial, while you had India basically protesting, reserving not adopting the final document, Russia, Cuba having the more stronger view. China was completely absent. I was involved in negotiations. Chinese diplomats and representatives were not there, and everybody was puzzled. Even they were not on the high-level opening panel. They spoke from the microphone, which was one of the inventions of the NETmundial. And there is now interesting discussion in academic circles why China took such a low profile, and there were different interpretations. One is that China is basically satisfied with the current situation, which satisfies the main strategic interest of China in the digital world. But that, as you can see, China moved a bit, because when you are in the center of this arc, there is a strong position. China moved a bit out of the central position. Those are two major developments, I would say. In April, yes, European Union moved with a strong delegation at the NETmundial, moved stronger into trying to create a compromise between two sides. The delegation was led by Vice President of European Commission, Nelly Cruz. It was a quite strong delegation with members of the cabinet. Therefore, this is the current situation in the mapping of internet governance field at the end of May, and we will see what is going to happen over the month of June before the summer lull and very, very hot autumn. We'll have a Versus Plus 10 high-level event between 10th and 13th of June in Geneva. We already discussed the preparation of the documents. I hope the minister won't have to. They won't be definitely happy to spend the long hours till midnight and drafting and negotiating the second part of the vision document. There will be Eurodig meeting between 12th and 13th June in Berlin, which is very often a place where you can get some signals about new trends. Especially now it will be held in Berlin, and because of the importance that Germany has been attaching to internet governance over the last 1.5 years, that could be an interesting meeting to follow up, in particular on the issues of data protection and privacy. There will be ICANN's big celebration, 50th meeting in London between 22nd and 24th of June. We don't expect any major developments, therefore, but there will be the speeding up of the process of the discussion on the IANA. But as far as we have been consulting ICANN community, we don't expect any major developments, although there will be controversies around the new GTLDs like .amazon, .vine, and other related issues. Now, Geneva Internet Platform in May, what we had a NETmundial follow-up. We had book presentation, Peacetime Regime for State Activities in Cyberspace. Excellent book. And most of you were in the CSTD negotiation. You missed a lot. This is probably, I would say, the Bible for anyone involved in cyber issues. Prepared by Tallinn Center NATO and Katarina Tsiolkovsky. She is now a legal advisor of the German Ministry of Defense. We had a workshop on diplomatic reporting in the internet era, trying to also focus on skills that diplomats need to do a slightly different reporting by using Twitter and this new tool. And it was quite an interesting exercise. For month of June, we planned an event with ISOC on the role of governments in internet governance panel. I'll tell you the secret of what is the title of my presentation. NETmundial, between blue skies and red lines. And I just noticed this morning that when you combine red and blue, you get purple. Therefore, we'll see how in the color scheme we will discuss When I say NETmundial, between blue sky, new possibilities on engagement, and in the last mile, definitely red lines when delegations were basically drawing red lines, what they cannot accept. We'll have very interesting event on Bitcoin on the 13th of June, day after. There will be Bitcoin ATM machine and people addressing Bitcoin from political, economic, technical, and development aspects. What is it all about? Also explaining to many of us how does it work, how you print new money. And then we'll have Internet as a critical resource for Pacific Island states on 18th of June. Well, that's more or less the summary. Zoom out, 10 main trends, slight reshifting of the Internet governance scheme, how to deal with the post-NETmundial development, questions of network neutrality coming in, ICANN-related issues. I would say general positioning for the hot autumn that we'll have with quite a few meetings with IGF in Istanbul, with our conference on the Geneva Internet Conference, and definitely the major event, ITU's plenipotentiary in Korea. Time for questions and comments from both remote participants and you in the room. Okay. Richard.
Now, looking at this, to me, it's really only about one part. If the rest of the world prepared to continue to accept American imperialism, or are they ready to do that?
Just to repeat the question, Richard did extreme zoom out, and he went to, what was the planet?
Mars.
He went to Mars, and he looked at IG from Mars, and he saw one question: if the world is ready to accept American imperialism in the internet field or not. This was the Richard's real zoom out. Continue the American imperialism. Well, if we move from Mars a bit closer, it's very hot over there. We can see that this is the issue that is basically addressing some issues, the role of the U.S. mainly in the field of ICANN, but also in the general internet economy. Now, the closer you're moving to the Earth, the closer you're realizing that many of IG issues are so-called messy policy issues or wicked digital problems. And they cannot be solved by just another conference when you will address the question of continued US imperialism. I'll give you one example, net neutrality. Net neutrality, even if we sit and bring the brightest people in the world around the same table, this issue cannot be easily solved because one solution is triggering next problem on national, international level. And the countries, Vlada and myself, Vlada Radunovic, there are about 20 different potential different positions, and 8 within the United States. Interest of Silicon Valley, interest of the big telecom companies, interest of Hollywood, interest of regulators, software companies, etc., etc. Users. And users, yeah. Therefore, when we are moving from Mars to Earth, we realize that the issue is, some issues are really, really complex because of the way how internet is both designed and I would say managed. Therefore, one has to, I would say, to handle with care all controversies and try to forge, whenever it is possible, win-win solutions. In some cases, they are not possible, but I think there is a space still for win-win solution. And one of the things is the interest of everybody to keep the internet. Interest of the economic interest of Silicon Valley, but interest of all countries to have internet as an enabler of social and economic development. If it gives some hope that we can keep the internet as one and have some social compromise. Please, Nanda from Indonesia.
Thank you, Jovan. It was mentioned about the
Well, decentralization means, I'll give you an analogy, again, zoom out. I won't go that far as Richard to Mars, but we'll be closer at the moon. And when you see the climate change issues, climate change, like internet governance, had a mantra: global problems needs to be addressed by global deals. Still Copenhagen. In Copenhagen, this story basically failed. And since then, the climate change community, which is based in this building, started showing, okay, we will pursue within the realistic expectations the global deal, but we'll focus on the regional and national local initiatives. My guess is that we will face something similar in internet governance, because it's so difficult to find the common arrangement. Therefore, there will be more and more local and national arrangements, hopefully not risking decentralization or fragmentation of the internet. This is but I think there is a space. And I will give you one example. Our Brazilian colleagues mentioned, for example, Marco Civil Act, which introduced network neutrality. For them, network neutrality principle was introduced to contain the risks of the telecom operators of playing with internet traffic. It's very local concern in Brazil. So for network neutrality, okay, there are democratic aspects, human rights aspects, but for them was basically to find the safety mechanism to control network operators who were playing in the past with the traffic. Therefore, even on that issue, each country will have a specific considerations, specific concerns. I can see more and more decentralization of the policy discussion, like we had in climate change. Aaron, please. I would say that we have a question from Arun from India. If there will be consequences of the European Court of Justice ruling on Google. Definitely there will be. Direct ones. Google already opened a form where you can request, put the request that your information specifically can be deleted. A, this is on technical level. B, it opens the question of jurisdiction. Therefore, that will be a big issue. How national jurisdiction can protect the rights of their citizens and the digital assets. We have a question from Richard Hill. Quick.
It's very revealing. Because what happens is by global level, French law, just as Google has here by global level. So we see that and the digital space is big enough and powerful enough and in fact
just a comment from Richard Hill, which will to add. He said that he quoted 2000 Yahoo case which was brought in France. Just to give you the background, the French Jewish organization basically requested Yahoo to remove Nazi memorabilia from their website in the United States, not in Yahoo France. That's it. Then, now, what happened, and here I have a slight disagreement with Richard. What happened, basically, the ruling of the French court, based among other things on the expertise of the panel, which included one of the internet fathers, who they were asked if it is possible at that time, 2000, long time ago, if it was possible to identify where from people are accessing the website. They said yes in 80% of cases, and then French court said yes. When, if it is possible, we ask Yahoo.com to block all accesses from France to Nazi memorabilia. They did it initially, therefore they did the filtering on the people who are accessing France. Later on, they removed it from the website. So that's a very interesting consequence of the Google case. That's the second one. Third one, which is extremely important, is European soft and hard power in internet governance. Europe is basically only player currently that can, through anti-monopoly court laws, force the internet companies to observe certain rules. It has a huge market, internet market of 500 million people that cannot be ignored, which is wealthy market also. Therefore, the battle around the questions of data protection, right to be forgotten, monopolies, will be most likely fought in the Brussels and Strasbourg, because then countries, once Europe achieves a certain level of the protection, then other countries usually follow and copy that. That's, I would say, third strategically relevant outcome of the discourse, and I'm sure that there will be more and more cases coming on the question of mainly human rights and the internet. All right, please welcome to the session. We have our colleague from Algeria. Well, we had Murad, the question. I can just report that the atmosphere, the research field is laughing after the question was asked. If the question was if the multi-stakeholderism is the way to go on in internet governance, I will provide the answer through a comment on the design of our Geneva Internet Conference. We will have a conference on between 8th and 10th of September. Most of us are getting a bit tired of traditional internet governance discussion. Even if you don't stay till 1 o'clock in the morning, there are so many events every week all over the world, academic think tanks discussing, and this is okay. What we can do different? And then we decided to unpack this multi-stakeholder discussion and so to say, okay, how multi-stakeholderism can apply to, for example, typical procedures and not in necessarily multilateral meetings, but any meeting from parliament to the local communities. You need procedures, you need some sort of representation, you need some process, you need the question of drafting, you need some decision-making procedure. And I'm highlighting, in any organized way of dealing with policy issues, you need some procedural issues, even if they are tacit. In local communities, probably they are not going to ratify it in parliaments maybe. Therefore, we want to unpack and say, okay, what are the possibilities to have the, let's say, reasonable representation? What are the possibilities to make decisions that can reflect different views? Can we draft with 1,000 people around the table? Definitely not. As you know from the long nights in Geneva's negotiation. So we want to ask some common sense questions, say, okay, what is it possible? And to unpack and to see, okay, here are possibilities. Here we can use multi-stakeholder approach because of its power to bring different views. Here are the limitations. Now, by keeping in mind limitations, we will increase the accountability of the process. Because we say, here are the limited possibilities. You cannot draft easily in multi-stakeholder process. Because then red lines, as happened in Sao Paulo. Last night, the red lines started being drawn. And basically, many governments are drawing the red lines. We have a comment from Richard at this point. Since Richard brought the Mars, which one? Okay, the question was, I will try to recall it. If there is internet, where? To the moon? Now, I have to bring a bad news. Because according to the principle of territoriality, territory of the states, and now I know I will have quite a few, I won't have that many admirers, goes from the center of the Earth and extends indefinitely into the space. Therefore, this is the way. Obviously, there are outer space conventions, there are different bodies, but theoretically speaking, governments can extend their reach even if the internet governance is in outer space. Well, then we'll have to consult Kepler and Galileo for There was a comment that Earth is turning, and then we cannot have the definite fixation of the point, and where basically in the morning the internet governance on the moon will be maybe in Mexico, in the afternoon will be in Switzerland. Okay, Richard, please.
Yeah, so back to that comment. I agree with that. What we saw at the is the decision-making process. There's no problem with having stable communication. When you get to decision-making, it's very delicate because you can have one person who is maybe represents blocking the process. We saw that not the different issues. One single participant, either government or civil society or private sector, doesn't matter, happens at the auction. That happens, put the flag up and we're blocked. And this somehow is quote unquote not right. The solution in NETmundial was wrong. I'm one of the people who believe that in NETmundial are too wrong. But there's got to be some middle ground. Because you cannot advance with humanity. So you cannot advance with ignoring significant fibers. So you need to find something right.
I think that Richard summarized one important point. Multi-stakeholder in consultation process is very powerful. You have a harvest different views, expertise, insights, and this and that. The challenges comes when you move into decision-making process. What are the procedures? How it can work? What are the risks? Is it rough consensus? He argued that it was too rough in Sao Paulo. And what are the mechanisms? Our conference in September will address this issue, zoom in on this issue. And one of possible solutions is to some extent increasing transparency. Because when you don't have procedural elements to control the different interests and players, probably the best way is to increase transparency. Then people can see what's going on. With all the risk that transparency may not contribute to the reaching compromise because everybody will be playing for the gallery back home, and there are certain risks. But this is one way to open the process. We had a comment from you. Around. We just heard quite an interesting one from Murat from Algeria. I'm just repeating for remote participants that some organizations like ILO with tripartite structure. ILO has the government representatives, representative employers, and employees. Could be inspiration for some future internet governance setup, whatever it is. Having different constituencies sitting and having check and balances. So I think that there is a need for a lot of thinking out of the box. There are alternatives. Alternatives should be analyzed without preconceived views and ideological position. We should really analyze its merits. It is, I would say, clear consensus worldwide, with few exceptions, that opening of the internet governance space brings more views, brings more vibrancy, brings more ideas, and the multi-stakeholder process in that sense has been enriching the internet governance processes. Having said that, there are the issues that needs to be addressed, especially when it comes to decision-making phase. Good news is that there is a commonality of interest. Big industry wants to keep internet unified because the more internet users, the more profit they make. Many countries want and need to keep it because of the tool for the social and economic development. Two, well, users, when we are asked in our capacity in users, we are also keen, and I always say that probably Silicon Valley should have the special constituencies about, with grandmas worldwide. By using Skype, many grandmothers are in touch with their kids living on different continents. Therefore, there are convergence elements, and our efforts should be made, this is at least effort on Geneva Internet Platform, to help foster this convergence element and reduce confusion, stereotypes, misperception, and streamline processes in order to preserve Internet as the basic engine of inclusion and social development, social and economic development. Thank you very much. We have a question. Well, I will just repeat what we discussed with Richard. According to Yahoo decision and previous decision, the question is basically protecting the right, in this case, I don't know what is his name, Spanish citizen. Whether it is done through Google.Spain or Google.com, ultimately users in Spain, in his jurisdiction, should access link with information about him. This is the main. There is in judgment, there is a sort of slight ambiguity. They said that Google.Spain is subsidiarity of the Google.com. And on that level, ambiguity is less. But if you analyze the general trend and the Yahoo.com case from 2000, I would say that it applies to restricting access to specific information on the territory of Spain, or in this case, potentially European Union. Thank you very much for your questions, comments. We're getting back to the earth, to, I guess, long afternoon at various meetings in the UN. The next briefing will be most likely in September. The session on the Bitcoin that Teresa is informing me will be also broadcasted. Next week we'll have session on the political, economic, technical issues of the Bitcoin development. Thank you. Have a nice afternoon.